story? What? That's it?
That's the one.
I mean, should we start? Are we waiting for somebody?
I don't know, somebody else is... They probably know we have a class now.
Okay. So we're on top of 191. We're on the third line. V'hata. Shach. I think we have another book in there, Tafshin Daled, Maimorim.
I have a copy of 91.
Make sure it's Maimorim, not Sichas.
I have a copy for you.
Oh, he has a copy, okay. Okay. So we're on 191, the third line from the top. And I was explaining that the avodah of raising, of elevating the nefesh, and giving the nefesh a chance of freeing, of breaking out of the nefesh ativis and rising higher, is only through the midos of the nefesh, ahava v'yira, as we discussed, and not through the moichin. The Rebbe says if a person would be misboinen in any union of a lakus, no matter how well he is misboinen, this will not have the effect that he should overcome the midos, the natural midos of nefesh abamis. He will still be drawn the same way, because the moichin do not raise the neshama. The moichin is a great experience on its own. There's insight and all that, but it doesn't really raise the person. V'hatam, the reason for that. Why doesn't the moichin have a real effect, even though this is the real insight, and you recognize it, the real, the truth? The reason for that is mipnei shehamoichin hey makif adayin, because the moichin are as yet, adayin means as yet makif. Makif means that this is the word makif means surrounding. It means that whatever you recognize in moichin, it is looking at it from above, not getting involved in it itself. It's not really a personal experience. It is like seeing something. But not, and therefore it doesn't have a real effect. It's called a makif, seeing things from a higher perspective. Even though understanding is a very personal thing, this is koyach ha-nefesh. But it does not really commit a person. This is not his personal experience. This is something that he knows about. That's what moichin is. This is why in moichin we can know things that are very far away from us. We can know in moichin things completely opposite to one another. And we can understand two sides of the story. Two sides of an argument. Like the story is, you're right and you're also right. In moichin it's all possible. Because you're not really involved in the Indian, you just understand it from its perspective, the way it is, not the way you see it. Therefore, it doesn't really touch you. That's moichin. And we will come back to discuss this in a little more. And the meaning ha-moichin he makif adayin. Adayin means yet, still. What does the word still mean? Normally, adayin means it's like when a person is thirsty and he drinks and he says, I'm still thirsty. Which means he's coming from someplace and he's still that way. So moichin makif adayin means that it's coming from someplace and it's still makif. Because essentially everything comes from the nefesh, from the neshama. But that which the neshama knows, that which the neshama understands, has very little direct effect on the goof, on the nefesh abams. The neshama, there is parts of the neshama that are completely above the goof. Only from seichel on down, from moichin on down, we are aware of it in the goof. There are parts of the neshama that are higher than seichel, that we're not even aware of it. And when we become aware of it, it is something which is not contained. We can't contain it. It's something that takes us over because it's higher than the goof. Moichin, we're already aware in the goof, but as we said, it's makif adayin. It's still makif. It's still something higher than the goof. It's still something that is essentially nefesh rather than goof. It's not our own experience. It's something that the nefesh knows. And therefore it doesn't have a real effect on the person. As I said, we'll have a chance to we'll go into this a little deeper later. And thus, Hagam shemizbeinin b'moichai. Although one is mizbeinin, contemplates in his mind the gdulas oirein seif, in the greatness of the oirein seif, mispoe b'moichai, and he even becomes excited. He becomes affected. It's not that he knows it academically, but he really personally becomes affected by it. Wow, this is so great. And yet still, he does not have such a great effect on his nefesh. Because it is not a nefesh experience, it's a higher experience. It's like from a distance, not a personal experience. When does pnimius means that which comes in the person internally, and he personally experiences. That begins from the midas. That is only in midas. Midas means that this is how I feel. Moichin basically moichin, we said moichin, or we always say moichin is objective, and midas are subjective. You know the meaning objective and subjective? You know the term objective and subjective? Subjective means personal. Objective means how the inyan is unrelated to me. The way the truth is. So we can readily see moichin is objective. It means I'm not passing any judgment. This is the way it is, but I'm not personally involved. This is the way I see it. This is the way I feel about it. Therefore, that really has an effect. If a person comes to the point where he says, I personally relate to godliness, I personally relate to Torah, that has an effect on him. But if he says, the truth is that Torah is the truth, but not personal, it doesn't have an effect on him. It may be the truth, but it doesn't really draw him into it. The ikar pnimius hu mehamidas dafke. The real pnimius, the word pnimius means that the person actually experiences it. It doesn't just know it, but it experiences. V'lochein hamidos heim iker ha'odom. And for this reason, the midos are the principle. This is the iker. This is the center. This is the principle. This is the essence of the person. Iker. In other words, how is a person going to act under certain circumstances based on the way his midos are, not the way the meichin are. As it is also explained in discussing the inyan of Yodaito Hayim Vashivesa Al Vavech. This is the posuk. Yodaito Hayim, we say it in davening every day. Yodaito Hayim Vashivesa Al Vavech. You should know like this day. You should know clearly like this day. Vashivesa Al Vavech. You should bring it back to your heart. What is the addition? You should bring it back to your heart. The beikir he ha'ashova el halev davke. Because even though you know it very clearly, if you do not bring it back to the heart, if you do not get the heart to participate and to recognize it and to feel it, it doesn't have an effect. Because when this inyan is still just in his mind, it does not touch him so much. It does not mean anything to him personally. When this comes down into midas in the heart, then this thing becomes pertinent and it touches him internally, personally. And for this reason, it is only through the midos who aliyas hanefesh. This is what affects the rising of the nefesh. His gabruso ala koiches tivim, and giving it the ability to overpower the koiches tivim, the natural koiches. So, this explains what we started in the beginning of this ois. That the principle in Avodah is the Rotz V'Shuv is the Abba V'yira, the midas of Abba V'yira. And he explains that it's necessary that it should be both Abba and Yira, Rotzu and Shuv. As we discussed here in this ois, that the purpose of all avodah, the purpose is not just to know, but it is just like when Eden came out of Mitzrayim. It wasn't just to know what's doing outside, and they had to move away, break away from it. Every aspect, every union of Avodas Hashem means that you actually have to move from place to place. Move away from one type of view to a different type of view. This is an important principle which we touch upon in different ways. There is, especially, and this is true by everyone, but a Baal Tshuva can understand it even better than someone who has always been in Kedusha. Because someone who has been in Kedusha does not recognize, does not see the big effect in the same way, the big contrast, the big difference. It's possible for someone to grow up in a kosher home and go to yeshiva and go through the yeshiva and get married and establish a home and never really challenge himself to know what he's doing. Everything is smooth, everything is the same. He is at 40 the same as he was at 20, like we say Basora, but not because of purity, because he never really grew up. He's just doing things the way they are. When we come from a different perspective, we're exposed to a different world. Even though we recognize that is a false world, this is the real thing. There are two ways of recognizing the reality of something, the truth of something. You can be standing outside of the window and looking inside and say, hey, this looks nice. When you say that this looks nice, you're seeing it with your eyes, you're seeing it with your seichel, but you're not really inside. You don't really experience the being there. If you stand outside and you see people, a full shul of people davening, you're affected. But you're not a participant. You don't really know what it means to daven. Even though you see it looks good. You want it. But you're still outside. Essentially you're outside, and you know what it is. When do you really change? When you go inside. When you go inside and you start participating and experiencing it, that's when you really go through an internal change. And it happens very often that when the person looks from outside, it looks all very nice. When he comes inside, he gets lost. He feels uncomfortable.
Is this connected to the reason that we're going to the mikveh more?
Maybe I'll come back to that. It's a different thing. But I'll come. This is not an experience. And it is possible for a person, that's what you always say, that if someone who did Shuvah and he started putting on tefillin and keeping kosher and keeping Shabbos, he has to understand that these are the easiest part of Shuvah. Because these are the things that you can learn without being involved. What do you do? What do you do with Shabbos? What do you do with kosher? Okay, no problem. Okay, so it's a wonderful thing. It's very important. But in terms of tshuva, in terms of changing a person's view of the world and of his own life, this is the beginning only. And it's actually the easier part. The more difficult part is when one has to make changes in how he relates to things. For instance, in the world, everything is based on me. If I studied something, what is the value of studying? I get a pin in my lapel. I get a diploma. I get covered. I get a recognition. Someone becomes a doctor, so he has a PhD behind his name. It's all based on recognition. There's a story which I recently saw. There's a bocher from a good yeshiva, and he was one of the best bocherim in the yeshiva. And I don't remember exactly how it happened, but he came to see the Rebbe. And he was by the Rebbe a long time, like an hour. And when he came out, he was very upset, all white, very upset. After that, he began to slip. He wasn't such a good bocher anymore. He began to slip. And he slipped and he slipped and slipped until he went away from the yeshiva. And he went away from Yiddishkeit. Amon Islam. Completely. I don't remember whether he actually got married to non-Jewish, but very, very far. And then, after many, many years, he started coming back. So then he was asked, what happened? What happened? How come he slipped? He says he was with the Rebbe, and the Rebbe urged him that he should learn Chassidus.
He was Lubavitch?
No, he wasn't Lubavitch. He should learn Chassidus. And the Rebbe said to him that without Chassidus, it is possible, I don't remember exactly what it is possible to fall away. If you're missing something, you fall away. And he argued with the Rebbe. What do I need Chassidus? I'm learning. It was like one of the best bochim. The Kitzur HaMaisa, what happened there, that soon after that, he was always on top, was always respected in the yeshiva. He noticed that the bochrim are not giving him the right covet like he used to be. For some reason, they lost sense in his svoras, his seichel. And they did not accept his insights, his explanations with the same enthusiasm that they used to. So he lost interest. And this caused him to become distant and distant and distant until he lost it completely. This is exactly what happened, and the details exactly, but this is what happened. That he wasn't recognized, and as a result of that, he fell away. Because that's what is in the world. You can do the best thing, but the primary driver, the primary force that keeps you there is the recognition. And if you're not recognized, then you lose interest. In Yiddishkeit, we know that our primary strength is that this is what it says that we have to do. This is the Shulchan Aruch. This is the Torah. This is what Hashem wants us to do. This is the most important thing. And even if we don't get recognized, we don't get appreciated, okay, everybody wants to be appreciated. No question about it. But that's not going to cause me to not to do what I have to do. That's out of the question. I feel badly. Okay, I'm a human being. But that's not going to change my view. Cannot. This is the truth. This is the Torah. To go through this change, this is a fundamental change in the mindset of the person. This is not just, you can't learn this. Here's something I have to go through experience. You have to force yourself. You have to break through. It has to be in your midas. You have to actually feel it. You have to feel that Yiddishkeit is my real life. And there's no way that I can move away from it, no matter what. Not because it's the right thing, not because it's a good thing, but because it's me. That's what we're saying over here. The real effect is, this is me. I have no place else to go. This is me. That view, that attitude, doesn't exist in the world. In the external world, what I do and what I am is two different things. I do good things, but I have to be recognized. And if I'm not recognized, then I can not do it. I can slip away. Because in the world, everything a person does is at a distance, like looking through the window. Oh, this looks good, let me do it. In Yiddishkeit, there is a demand that you should not be outside and look in the window, you should be inside. Like, how do you make a minyan people? A minyan, that you can say Kaddish and Baruch Hu and Kedusha. You make a minyan by being one of the minyan, one of the people. You make the minyan. You're part of the structure itself. Then you make the minyan. If you stand away and you hear how the minyan davens, it's fine and good, but you're not making the minyan. You're not part of it. Making the minyan, you can answer everything, but making the minyan means to be part of its stand. That's Yiddishkeit. And that is the midas, where you're personally involved, not with your saying. Okay? This is a principle since you're all grown men, and everyone is thinking about making their own home in Mitzvah Shem. You have to always remember that when you go into making your own home, you have to, and you're into it already, Mitzvah Shem in the right shot time, you have to know that you have to, you are the building block, you're making it. And you have to be part of it, not to see, does it suit me, does it not suit me, does it agree with me or not agree with me? There's no such thing. This is my thing. This is what this is me. That's how you build a Jewish home. This is why in a Jewish home there's real harmony, there's real unity, because everybody is one thing. Not looking from outside and seeing how is the other person reacting to me. That's not the way it works. Okay. So, normally, when we finish a noise, we go back and we repeat it. But we had so many different participants in this noise. So I think we'll learn the next noise. And that's my thought. What do you think? We're going to learn the next place, and then maybe we'll repeat both of these together. Maybe we'll have one contiguous group. V'hinei, im heyois, even though the tachlis ho'avoida v'ikr, that the end, tachlis, means the end purpose of the Aveda, the real accomplishment of Aveda, the purpose of Aveda, the Ikra, and its principle, holy his gaber ala koiches tivim, it is to overcome the koiches tivim, the natural inclinations, ulahavchom lekelim lelakus, and to turn them around and transform them, that they should become kelim to alakus. That the koiches tivim, the natural inclinations, should be able to accept godliness. Kelim lalakus. We'll have to discuss a little bit this expression. To transform the koiches, natural koiches, that they should become kelim to alakus. But we'll go a little further, and then we'll be able to understand it a little better. The Aveda zu hi alidei hamidas dafki. This Aveda, to affect and to transform the natural koiches, that they should become kelim for the alakus. The translation of the word kelim alakus is that they receive, they can accept and understand alakus. It's to the midas dafki. Even so even though it is done to midas, hine, nevertheless, ze ma sheha midas, yuchlu, the fact that the midas are able, Li foil bi piulateva ushleimo, that the midas are able to act. The piulateva with good action, ushleimo, and a complete action, and a perfect action. Hu alidei hamoichin davko. That is only to the moichin. What does this say? We have moichin and midas. And these are two separate and very different qualities in the person. Like we said before, moichin are makif and midas are pnimi. And it's a completely different natures. But midas cannot function independently of the moichin. The midas have to be affected by the moichin. And it is only if through the effect of moichin that the midas are acting and are properly and perfectly. What this is saying, it is going to be discussed, but what this is saying briefly is this. When a person has a certain midah, a certain desire, even if it is a good thing, he wants to learn. He enjoys learning. He wants to learn. It's a good thing. If that enjoyment and that want is only because he enjoys it, he does not also recognize in his mind that this is the right thing to do, that this is the correct thing to do, it has a value, it's not going to be done appropriately. Because the midah is, today I feel like it, tomorrow I don't feel like it. Even if I feel like it, this piece of Gemara I like, this piece of Gemara I don't like. It's not enjoyable, it's not interesting. Let me go to the next one. There has to be moichin that illuminate and give the highest of the midas, so that the midas will act on the basis of the moichin. Even though it is the midas act, but there's the basis is the moichin. But the mind says, in other words, while a person has Abba, for instance, you meet up, you sit by Fabrengen, right? You had a Fabrengen the other day. Sit by Fabrengen, sit around the table with all your friends, you sing Nigunim, it's beautiful, it's wonderful. And you're enjoying it. While you're enjoying it, you're also realizing that it's not just enjoyment, but this is also a very special moment. And you're accomplishing something. You're doing something that's right, that's important, that has a reason and a purpose in it. Not just the enjoyment of it. Even though it's a good, proper enjoyment. Enjoying your friendship is a very nice thing. But that by itself is not the real avodah. Let's say you're sitting by Fabrengen with your friends, and you have a little dispute. Whatever it is, your friend sits down and you sit. Sit down in your seat. And you got used to the seat, you like the seat. And he came and he sat down in your seat. Even if he did it unintentionally. So if the whole Inyan of Fabrengen was you feel comfortable, you feel good, you're going to make him get up. Get up, it's my seat. And if he refuses to get out, it becomes a whole field. And you say, in that case, I'm leaving. Right? Nobody here can possibly do that, but it's possible such a thing. We can imagine such a thing happening, right? It's not far-fetched. But if you're by Farbrengen, while it is enjoyable and all, but you Farbrengen because it's a Farbrengen, and you want to participate in this important event, then if he sits and you sit, you go and sit down on difference. You won't even make a deal of it. Baruch, I'm still in class. In about a half hour. Yeah, sure. Okay. The midas cannot function without moich. In other words, if you do something that you enjoy, even if it's a good thing, but you do not also have the sense that this is an important and good thing, it's going to go astray. It's not a real thing. This is the difference between a human being and an animal. Animal can also do good things. But they don't know that they're good doing good things. They're doing it because instinctively. A person doesn't act instinctively. A person acts completely imperfectly. That's because the moichin, the mind, affects the midas. That's why it's perfect. Okay, this is what he says. Hu alidei hamoichin dafke. Even though the midas are the iker, but what makes the midas act the way they should act, a good and a perfect act, it is a moichin dafke. Ubeseder v'hadrogo, and it has to come beseder v'hadrogo. It has to come in an orderly and in a gradual manner. Orderly and a gradual. Orderly means that things have to come in a certain order. First things first, and then second and third. And the hadroga means it has to come gradual. And we'll come back to discuss this hadroga in a moment. What is the state of hadroga is? It has to come first from moichin into midos sheb b'seichel, into the midos that are part of seichel. Within seichel itself, there is also midos. This is the midos in the seichel. O mehamidos sheb b'seichel. And then from the midas of seichel, the seichel shebe midas. He has to come down to the seichel that is in the midas. Or miseichel shebe midas, le midas hagluye shebe leiv. And from the seichel in midas into midas per se. Okay? So now, this is going to be discussed. I just want to, this is a new concept, what? Never heard it before.
We have such some meters in the safe, in the one.
There is seichel, then there is midas shebe seichel, then there is seichel shebe midas, and then there is midas. Okay. Let's quickly go through this and then we'll understand. Just as we said before, that moichin is makif. Makif means that I know something, but it doesn't mean anything to me personally. I know the inyan. In order that from this knowledge should come something real in the person, one has to realize in his moichin, in his mind. See, when we say moichin are objective, it means literally. I could see something, and all I know is the facts. It's not what it means practically. This is the reality of it. The next step after that is that this reality has implications. You know what implication means? It has inherent in it a directive how you're supposed to act. Let's examine the following statement. Okay, to steal is wrong, and if it's wrong, then it is bad. You see the difference between wrong and bad? No? Wrong is exclusively a mind quality. Bad is something that already the heart can relate to. The proper way to realize something, to develop a midah, to develop a person, first he has to know right from wrong. True from false. Nothing to do with good and bad. Just how is the Indian? Then from that comes good and bad. Good and bad is still in the mind, essentially. But this is what's called midah shebaseichel. The seichel has already implications. Implications means has already it can relate to the practical, to what should be. Normally, moichin is just to itself. This is right and wrong, finished. And good and bad is not just in itself. This is the way how it relates outside. This is what's called the midas in the seichel itself. And these two steps are necessary, because if one only knows good and bad, and he doesn't know right and wrong, so the sense of good and bad is not real. It's already something that I have an inclination for. I feel this is good, I feel this is bad. It's not the real thing. The real thing, like we say, when the Torah says don't steal, like we spoke yesterday, don't steal, what does it mean don't steal? Don't steal is not only because you're going to hurt the other person, but because Hashem, the creator of the world, says don't steal. And if you steal, you're violating developed the whole creation of the world. You're violating the king.
It's bad.
That's bad, but this is more than bad. This is an absolute thing. Bad is the result of something. You know how it feels. This is the absolute. This cannot be. This is wrong. This is false. Doesn't exist. Do you understand the difference? Not yet?
What this means not exist.
Okay. I'll try to give very simple illustration. If an engineer builds a house, but the house is so engineered and so constructed that it only looks like it's standing, but really the first wind is going to blow it over. Is that a house? Is it a bad house? Or is it not a house?
It's not a house.
It's not a house. If it is a house, but when you walk on the second floor, you can hear downstairs. It's not properly insulated. It's not properly constructed. That's a bad house. When you talk about the absolute truth, you say, Hashem doesn't want it. Hashem doesn't want it means that this is not allowed to exist. He has no, all chayas comes from Hashem. And they say, Hashem doesn't want it, and then there's no chayas in it. So we have to know, Hashem gave us a lot of leeway. You know, we can make mistakes and correct them and all that. But we have to know the primary thing. The primary thing is that there is really a king in the world. And really we have to do it the right way. Not because it's convenient, not because it's comfortable, but because that's the only way that Hashem gives chayas. If you want to have chayas from Hashem, this is the only way to have it. So when we say we have a midah, we have to give tzedakah. Tzedakah is something that everybody understands. You have to be kind to the other person. But it's a completely different thing to know that tzedakah is really doing that which Hashem Himself does. The whole world it's tzedakah from the Meibush. Huh?
There's a question. Eventually everything is lemala mitam v'das. much in touch with the midas, which is all about Talmud. I have to understand that this is bad. On the other hand, Lamala Talmud. Just do it
because this Lamayla Mitamadas, this Mitamadas, the Seichel, gives the Mida a sense of reality. That's what I said before. The animals also have Midas. The eagle is a Rachmoni Albonah. Eagle has a certain Midah of Rachmanis. But does he know what he's doing? He doesn't know what he's doing. When a person has Rachmanis, it's a different kind of Rachmanis, he knows what he's doing. It's Midas that have Seichel in them. What Seichel means, it has a real substance. It has reality. It is the right thing. It's the true thing. That's what a human being is.
But eventually we do it only because there is a king. Not because we like it or not, or we think it's good or bad, but because there is a king. That is the essence of all this idea.
This is what we're saying here. That even though that there has to be the Seichel and there has to be the Midas. This, which the king tells us to do, we have to ultimately take it in the Pnimius, and it has to become part of our Midas. That way, this is how we break away from the Nefesh HaTivis. It has to be permeated, it has to come through the Midas. But there has to be Seichel also. And if there's only Midas without Seichel, then the Midah loses its real strength. There has to be the Seichel. And it has to come in this order. And it has to come gradually. And we'll discuss next time in Mitzvah why all of that. But principally, because if it doesn't go through gradually, then the lower level loses contact with the higher level. So even though you have Seichel, but if you jump right away to Midas, the Midah is a Midah, but it doesn't have the sense that it comes from Seichel. In order that the lowest Midah, the action itself, should have a sense that it comes from Seichel, it has to come gradually.
What is gradually?
Gradually means Beseder v'hadrog. Then there is a connection. Just like when a person is walking down steps. A person walking down steps, so he knows that when he came down to the bottom step, he started over there, he came down. He's connected to there. This step is connected to there. But if he jumps across, doesn't know where he jumped from.
What is Hadraga and what is jumping? What is Hadraga and what is jumping?
Hadraga means that from each step that he makes, he knows where he's coming from and where he's going. How did he get here? What's meant Hadraga? He jumps, he doesn't know how he got here. He just fell in here.
He can get to the Midas with just like that?
Yeah.
With jumping?
Yeah. A person gets excited and he forgets about the Seichel. Oh, this is good. Yeah, let's do it. The Seder V'Adroga, the Seichel, the effect of Seichel in the Midas is very important. This makes it a real Seichel.
Hadraga is by Bonaimus, by the Bina. Hadraga explaining it like.
No, it's Avodah. Yeah, it's Avodah. That way, just to make a conclusion of this discussion for the time being, that way, when a person is doing something, even if he's doing a very simple thing in action, he does not feel that he is separated from his seichel. It's his seichel that comes into the action. It's not like two separate things. He feels completely in it. Because from the seichel came the whole development through the midas into the action. Otherwise, they're two separate things. The action and the seichel are separate. So in his seichel, he's not involved in what he's doing. This is why it has to come gradually. When it comes gradually with an order, then there is a continuous connection from the beginning to the end. And then it's considered, then it's called a human action. Not an animal action, but a human action. Because a human being is the whole structure of seichel and midas. It has all the richness of a human action. If you remember, I once explained to you the phenomenon that a human child, takes a year before he can take a step. And lahavdil, a horse, can walk in a half hour after it's dropped. Remember we discussed it? What's the difference? The horse doesn't know what it's doing. It's just doing this. This is all it is. It's walking, but it doesn't come from its seichel. That you're supposed to walk. Doesn't know that. A human child does not do things like that. Before he can walk, he has to go through his seichel. You're supposed to walk. And that takes a whole process. Until he understands that walking is the right thing, and how you walk, and that he wants to walk, and the whole process, until he grows up to the senior that he has to walk. And when he takes a step, it's infinitely superior to the running of the horse. There's no comparison. The horse doesn't know what it's doing. That's why a horse can just walk and walk and walk and walk. You see it just walking. That's what it's doing. A human being cannot just walk. A human being has to walk someplace. What am I doing? What is it about? Where am I going? And sometimes go to the park and you see people riding horses. And the horse goes there and shakes. Walks. You think it's nothing. The horse walking and the car driving is the same thing. It's totally insensitive to what it's doing. A human being is different. It has to go through the seichel. Somebody has to shut us off or what? What?